Good evening and welcome back to another live episode here on the Red Tinted Glasses YouTube channel. It is Wednesday night and we are a week away from the first pre-season game that we know of anyway, unless the club are playing a game in Portugal, but there's not been much talked about. So, Calum, we've got not a lot to look back on, consider there's been very quiet on the signing front anyway, but we do have fixtures to be announced.
Yeah.
And for those of you joining us live tonight on the YouTube channel, feel free to get involved in the comments section if there's any questions you want us to take a look at. A few of you have done so on our Twitter page at RTG_podcast. We'll get through a few of them as well. But yeah, Calum, fairly quiet week, it has to be said, down AB24 way, or in the Algarve, I guess.
Very, very quiet. Please do get involved in the comments down below. Otherwise, it'll probably be very quick before Glen and I turn to Cricket Scotland and also probably Johnny Bairstow. So get involved if you don't want to hear about cricket, is essentially what I'm saying here.
I mean, what's not to like about the cricket just now? It's providing lots of entertainment, that's for sure. I'm going to be cricketed out my nut tomorrow with both the Scotland game and that third Ashes test starting tomorrow. Productivity could be very low.
Oh, I can imagine. A work from home day tomorrow, is it, Glen, by any chance?
No, sadly not. I'm going to be in the office, so it'll be TMS on one and the Sky Sports YouTube on the other.
Makes sense. I'm in the office as well, so I'll be keeping up elsewhere.
Yeah, well, we'll stay across that. But what we did stay across on Friday was the fixture announcement as the Premiership fixtures were released for the season ahead. And you got your wish, Calum, with the first game being away in and around the area you so desired, as the Dons start the 23-24 season on the road with a trip to Livingston, followed up by a first home game against champion Celtic. That game has been announced as being moved to Saturday 12 p.m. kickoff for Sky Sports, who shocked absolutely nobody. But Calum, it's a bit of a tricky start, those first four games.
It is. I mean, as you say, I did get my wish. Livingston was literally the perfect fixture for me. I'll be situated 45 minutes away, just a couple trains, and I'll be there, no problem. So that'll be nice and easy. But not the most ideal of starts. When you also throw in, Livingston's a hard place to go to, then Celtic at home, which, by the way, pushing it back so that we've got even longer to wait before we see the Reds back in action at Pittodrie is awful news, but as you say, sort of highly predictable. And St Mirren away as well. Obviously, I think we'll have a cup fixture between Celtic and St Mirren away. But St Mirren away, I mean, they turned the Smiza Stadium into an absolute fortress last season, for the most part anyway. So it'll be tough, but I am relishing it, licking my lips. And you know what? It's only a week until the Duke show's back in town with Turriff away. So I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I don't know, for those that maybe have their hopes up, if he will, of course, be playing in that game, given the fact that he only returns to pre-season on Monday. So maybe more chance of seeing him at the Bells-Lee a week on Saturday. But as you said, we spoke about the fixtures. So we've got the fixtures taken from AFC 1903 Mad's Twitter page, because he kindly added in the European game. So this is really applicable to any of you watching on YouTube, because we're going to hide our faces, which is probably a blessing for some of you. And we'll chuck up the fixtures on here just now. So Calum, you put a poll up about August and the start in that first four games up until the international break, which comes after Hibs at home, which will be moved to a Sunday, the 3rd of September, because of Europe. And for those watching the live or watching on catch up on YouTube, will see that in the screenshot here, AFC Mads kindly putting all the European fixtures into this fixture list as well. So very handy for us when it comes to discussing now. But yeah, Calum, you posed the question about how many points are people hopeful of, or should we be realistic towards? I think the general consensus from that first four games of Livingston away, Celtic at home, St Mirren away, and Hibs at home was at least a minimum of 7 points. What's your feeling on that opening four games?
Look, I would, a few people did come back and say 12, which I admire their optimism. However unrealistic I think it may be. I would be delighted with 9. If we can win both the away games, beat Hibs at home, get off to a decent start, Celtic, is what it is. They'll spend their millions, even more millions than they've got now that they've sold Jota. But I'd be happy with 9. 7 I'd take. Anything less would probably be a big disappointment. And especially since we need to start get the ball rolling, especially away at Livingston. That has to be kicking it off with 3 points. Start as you mean to go on the road and get points on the board before we're playing the Thursday, Sundays.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing, of course, is that St Mirren game comes on the back of the first leg of the Europa League playoff game that we'll have. So potentially coming on the back of an away game with potentially, again, one eye on being in a suitable position to qualify for the Europa League. So again, that game could have a kind of consequences of what team we field if we really want to go for the Europa League. I do agree, though, we should really be looking at winning both those away games to put down a statement of our away form. And to be honest, I'd be looking at getting at least 4 points from the home games. Wow. So I would say for me, I'd be looking at 10. The Celtic game, I suppose, is one that, everyone, it's only the second game of the season. I don't really want to call it a free hit, but I saw someone reply to us saying that anything you get from those games is a bonus. But I think actually playing Celtic's second game it is a blessing, given that they're going to be a squad in transition, obviously new manager, players have left in terms of Jota. There's doubts around Rio Hatate's future as well. So maybe the perfect time to get them, of course, is we should expect to see a full house at Pittodrie as well, despite that lunchtime kickoff on TV as well. So no reason why we can't claim points in that game, but obviously it depends how we react to the European fixtures. And of course, the game against Hibs, pre-international break, we're of course in Europe on the Thursday, but Hibs too as well could potentially be in Europe that Thursday as well.
That's true. Will we bring our faces back, Glen, for those watching on video?
Yeah, we can do if I put my mouse in the right place.
Okay.
And move
to be fair, I do agree in the fact playing Celtic early is probably a good thing. I mean, sometimes they do tend to start a bit dodgy before then going on an absolute rampage. We've seen that quite a few times, particularly when they're just under a new manager. So although it's a new old manager, the squad's very different and things like that. I'm sure they'll be reshaping plenty before then. So it is a good chance on a rocking Pittodrie, as you suggested, it probably will be. I'm beginning to think we get something from that. We could get something from that game. Obviously, a lot of time between now and then. Squads all change and things like that. I'm not going to expecting anything though. Hopeful, yes. Expecting, no, because I've learnt my lesson over the years. That being said, when we do our preview podcast, when that rolls around, I'll be thinking we're going to absolutely fucking smash them.
Yeah, especially if we've gone to Livingston and come back up the road with 3 points. But as Lee Seymour says, I often think it's small time thinking, saying that anything off the old firm is a bonus. And I know there's definitely a few of you out there that agree with that sentiment, as Kaiser backs up there. And I certainly think this early in the season, when that game comes around, is exactly the mentality I hope that we don't have going into the game. And obviously Barry Robson's 2 previous encounters against Celtic haven't exactly gone to plan, but of course they were both down the road, not up here. Other notable pickups from the fixtures, and I would going to take credit for this, but I really have to do a lot of credit to Paul Donaldson, who watches regularly here on YouTube and did a really good summary and on the back of our last video. Picks up the amount of games that we've got listed away from home currently after European games. Obviously, the big standout one, again, a point that we talked about last time out, was the fact if we got Kilmarnock away after a European game, and depending who we face on the 26th of October in Europe, if that is an away game, then we do face a trip to Kilmarnock away on the weekend of the October 29th after that. Also picking up on the fact that the first 2 months probably is maybe trickier than we would have hoped for. I think we were discussing that on Friday between ourselves, that it is a tricky start to the season. I think, is that fair to say, Calum?
Yeah, I think so. However, I suppose it could go one of two ways. Confidence could absolutely be sapped, or perhaps if we come out of that, in a positive situation, then you're getting into that mindset and that positive place and the good league position and things like that early on, rather than chasing again, like happened a lot of last season. So it'll be interesting to see how it works. Sort of a double-edged sword. And slightly going off topic, looking towards the back end of the season, I know we're probably going to come on to it, but before I forget, I'm going to say it now. A lot has been made of the fact we've got 2 Old Firm double headers, I believe. However, after the second one, towards the back end of the season, we play Celtic currently at the weekend, Rangers in the midweek at Ibrox. But then we've got a very favourable run going in towards the split, which I absolutely do like. Hibs at home, Kilmarnock away, St Johnstone at home, St Mirren away, Motherwell away, County at home, Livingston away, Dundee at home. And now the likelihood is we're probably going to be out of Europe by that point, not to dampen everyone's spirits before we've even got there. But that once it's back to regular or more regular, just one game a week, and maybe we've slipped off whilst we're in Europe, that is a good result to put us back into a decent position if we do have that bad start that I was talking about. So I'm sort of rubbing my hands at the prospect of that a little bit.
Yeah, and another takeaway as well is that only one of the midweek fixtures, I don't really count Ross County on the 2nd as one, given it's a public holiday, but all the other midweek games that we have are at home, apart from that St Johnstone game that you spoke about in February. The St Johnstone game is at home. Where was it? I was just looking at it just a second ago. There was one away fixture that we've got on midweek, which is quite handy for certainly from a travelling fan's point of view, with the amount of games that we're going to have on Thursday. Another point that Paul picked up on as well is that we've got kind of 2 testing games before European fixtures. We've got Rangers away at the end of September and Hearts in the middle of September, both away games before we play European games. And that would be the first and second match day of the group stages. So you could look at it 2 ways: tricky games going into European, or ideal preparation going to grounds that we've struggled at in recent seasons.
Yeah, very true. Right now, I'm thinking that is annoyingly tough, but I suppose we'll never know how things work out until the time comes. But I am certainly very, very excited now that fixture list is out, and I'm just hoping for some new players that we're going to see coming up.
Definitely. Well, there's been talk in the comments tonight about a new goalie maybe being signed tonight, so be very typical that we'll finish this about 8:30 and it'll be announced, either that or it'll be announced first thing tomorrow, which is just ideal. We spoke last time out as well about the festive fixtures, again looking very favourable from a fan's point of view. A trip to Dundee 2 days before Christmas, so the last Saturday in December, we travel to Dundee and then host Motherwell and St Mirren in between Christmas and New Year. And then, of course, as mentioned, that trip to Dingwall on the 2nd of January. I know you're already excited for that one, Calum.
I am. And the Dundee one right before Christmas as well. So you don't have to travel far right before Christmas if we've got last minute shopping to do, which I will. However, it's still a good away day in Dundee. And hopefully we'll have the spirits will be high at that point. So I'm very excited about those 2 festive fixtures in particular. And it's nice having the 2 home games between those 2 as well. So I'm happy. I'm quite happy with the way things have worked out. Not just because the opening fixture suits me down to a T.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one thing we did speak about on the show last week and previous as well is, of course, Duke being away on international duty with Cape Verdean after their qualification for the African Cup of Nations. And Paul kindly managed to work out the fixtures that Duke would miss. Of course, I know some people will want me to also put in the fact that if he's still here come January, he would be set to miss Hearts away at the end of January, followed by Celtic and Rangers, and that double header at the start of February. So 3 very tough fixtures that we would be missing Duke for, but of course there's a long way to go between now and then. Just looking forward to the Duke content come Monday on the AFC social channels.
You just know they're going to absolutely rip the arse out of it, especially after all the links that they've had in rumours. I can't wait, to be honest. I will be liking and retweeting every single post they make.
Yeah. What did you make of the fact that Alan Burrows had to come out this week and actually go back on the point that we actually made on this podcast, that both of them would still be on an extended break? But that hasn't stopped some of our fans wetting the bed over Duke not being in Portugal. But certainly on Yilba Ramadani wasn't helped by a journalist claiming that he was on the verge of signing for Lecce of Serie A, which seems to have really not gathered any momentum, despite Yilber himself seeming to like then unlike the tweet from the journalist.
Yeah, that massively sort of put me into a little bit of a panic to start with, but then I think it was Scott Burns and the record that came out and said that Aberdeen are totally in the dark about this. So that's good. He's still on his Holly Bobs. To be honest, I knew they were going to get a little bit more of an extended break. I didn't think it was going to be until the 10th of July. So there was a small part of me like, okay, I know they're away, but come on, guys, let's just get them back into some photos so we can all calm down. But no, figured that was going to be the case, that they'll have a fair time off. But I thought they'd end up in Portugal. If I'm honest, I thought they'd maybe link up on sort of this past Monday. Maybe it might have been nice for Duke to be in Portugal with a team for a bit. That would have been lovely. I'm sure we'd have got lots of content out of that. So that's my main disappointment out of it all.
Yeah, and Dante Polvara, of course, who we mentioned again on the last show. Some people may be still a bit surprised by this news. Has rejoined the squad in Portugal after his loan spell at Charleston Battery has come to an end. I think that the photo that Lee Miller posted of his son with the squad yesterday, I think it was, certainly looked to be that Dante was there. And for those that follow him on Instagram, will see that he was at the beach today with Cal Rose. So definitely there and part of the squad, and I'm sure looking to make an impression on Barry Robson for the season ahead.
Absolutely. I was reading the Charleston Battery post, and that they posted saves going back, which obviously I already knew at the time. But he played every single game I think he could have since he got there, which is very encouraging. So he's going to be fit and ready to go straight in from the off. And I think he could have a part to play this season. I'm quite excited. If anyone's going to get the best out of him, it's Barry Robson. I think, I can't remember who it was, but players have said previously that in training he is very impressive. So I would love for this to be the Polvara redemption arc starting now. He's ready, he's raring to go, he's played some regular football, he's played well. I'm happy he's back, and hopefully we'll see him in Tariff. I mean, that'll be quite the change from America to Portugal to Tara.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the stadiums he's been playing at, he'll be pretty accustomed to playing at Tara. Although seeing Tara's post tonight, they have moved their game against locals to behind closed doors due to the weather. The pitch has got a bit of problems, so they've moved it to the Astro next door. I don't think they'll be doing that next week with a sizable crowd, I'm sure, coming to town.
Absolutely.
Actually, I call it a town?
I think so. I think it's a town. Is a village a town? I think it's a town. I should know, given my occupation, but nah. I am excited. And you know what? Credit to Tariff, actually. I wasn't expecting real tickets. Mine have arrived, and they're pretty good stuff. Good quality. Better than some of the sort of papery shite you get in the Premiership. So I'm impressed. Fair play to them.
Yeah, they're very sturdy. They're like cardboard. Yeah, very impressed. And, you know, it's getting to that stage now where I'm actually excited about next Wednesday and also next Saturday as well. Football's close to returning. Chris was asking me to post about the memberships for the bus for this season coming as well. So we're, you know, a few weeks away still, but once that pre-season gets going, the real action will be here before we know it.
Sorry, absolutely. I was just checking my phone in case I missed any notifications. But yes, I'm excited. My Preston ticket also arrived. Still not sure if the train's going to be going or not. And the Glen Rothes Reds bus is full. I was intending on going from Kirkcaldy. It's the minibus they're planning on getting is 16. They've got 16 down. So it's not looking good for me. But I'm hoping. Pray for me that I can get to Preston somehow, please, Glen.
I'm sure Sam would make sure you don't get on that bus after your comments to him in recent weeks as well. Of course, one of those comments as well was regarding Anthony Stewart, of course, who is also with the squad in Portugal. And if paper talk is to be believed, it seems that him along with Vicente Bazawin have got kind of a clean slate for the season upcoming. I kind of feel putting both Anthony Stewart and Vicente Bazawin in the same category around clean slates is harsh. But how much of a chance do you reckon Anthony Stewart is going to get this season? Do you think it is just paper talk, or are we likely to see him in action next Wednesday or next Saturday even?
I mean, from the point of view of the club, they're not going to come out and say there's no chance for this boy, you know. They were always going to suggest that he's going to get a chance. I don't know how much of a chance he's going to get. I think he'll be here until we get other centre backs in, providing we can find a suitor. He might be used in friendlies, sort of as sort of not only building up his fitness, but as for the rest of them, giving the other boys a rest. However, I would be very surprised if, come the start of the league season, he was playing his football at Pataudry or the Spaghetti had, more importantly, to start off with.
Fair. And of course, one kind of discussion point then around the centre backs, or certainly the defensive area, is Liam Scales' involvement with the club going forward, with Neil Lennon coming out in the press today saying it would be a sensible career choice for Liam Scales to continue his football at Aberdeen next season. Of course, Celtic back in pre-season training, but Liam Scales not involved again, down to the fact that he was on international duty with Ireland. And Roy Thompson asked in the comments, how much would you pay for Scales? He's saying no more than 500,000. And it's sparked a bit of debate in the comments, that's for sure. But I think we've kind of covered it a little bit before on previous shows. But would you agree with what Roy's saying? No more than 500,000 for Liam Scales?
Certainly no more. I would be hoping that we wouldn't be going near that amount. I feel like there would be sort of a Celtic tax on that. Had we taken him on loan from England and he had no chance of getting in the team, we wouldn't be looking at 500,000. But because it's Celtic, that's probably a relatively realistic value. I would have him back, however. I would have him back, not to play in a centre-back 2, though, if that was going to be the case. Left-sided centre-backs, hard to come by. He looks a lot better in the 3 alongside McDonald and, scared to say his name because I'll get upset, Matty Pollock. So he looked a lot better there. I wouldn't want him to play in a 2, though. I'm not convinced he's like a dominant enough centre-back for this league. Or if perhaps he was going to play at left back, like a sizable left back, he can play a bit. There's not quite that responsibility as there would be at centre back. So I'd have him back. I mean, it's not my money, but it's probably still not for 500,000. But I do agree with Richard there saying that 500,000, I'm still not sure, but would be a good investment for Scales. A quarter of the McCrory cash back into a young player we know can do a job. Sign him up. I'd like him back, but I'm not sure about 500,000. That being said, if we sign him for 500,000, I'd be excited because we paid 500,000 for somebody. That doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, I just think 500,000 is a lot for him. But then I suppose it goes to the point that you're saying, it's down to that Celtic tax. But as Tony Henry says, if we start another season without a capable left back, I'll cry. Not even being linked to one at the moment. Of course, right now we've got Jack McKenzie and Johnny Hayes that can play that position. Again, Liam Scales would fit that bill of being able to play as a left back. And I've got to kind of agree with Tony. It's the one position right now that I am probably most worried about in this team, and it's no disrespect to Jack McKenzie, who's obviously filled in there before. I just not sure about what he would be like for a full season, and then with Johnny Hayes picking up a concussion a month, we can't really afford not to have the strength and depth, which of course has been picked up a few times in the comments in regards to Anthony Stewart and his involvement next season, about maybe being third or fourth choice given the amount of games that we've got to play.
That is definitely fair. Now that we've mentioned, no links for the left back, however, given what happened last week with Graham Shinney and Reece Williams, wouldn't be surprised if straight off the bat tomorrow morning, first thing, the other one was announced. We don't know anything, by the way, but it's just knowing our luck.
Yeah, true. But of course, we could also be waiting for a bit of a windfall, because as Lee Seymour says, does anybody know how much we have as a sell-on for Lewis Ferguson? I want to say it was 20%. Of course, he's been rumoured to be moving to Napoli for around 15 million, which, as I was having a discussion with Neve and our brother Niall at work today, we're saying that if he was English, I'm sure that price would have probably doubled for Lewis, and I'm sure Bologna are maybe holding out for a bit more in terms of 15 million. And of course, Bruce Anderson as well, being linked with a move to Georgian football. We've got a percentage on that, and I'm pretty sure they're just absolute shite. But the rumours, of course, that have been doing the rounds on social media around Scott Wright potentially moving to Saudi Arabian football is another potential cash windfall coming our way with a sell-on fee. So maybe we're just holding out for a few players making the moves, and we get the cash, and then we're not actually spending any of our hard-earned cash.
Look, I've always really liked him, and I think Saudi Arabia should be all over that deal. Pay whatever it takes. Pay whatever it takes. Apparently, it's 20%. I've heard. I don't know if it's true. Could be absolute shite. But the rumored fee is 2 million. So that would mean we would get 400,000 if that was the case. Which, for someone who jumped ship at first opportunity, basically to the dark side, to get 400,000 for him when we got McCrory for cut price or whatever, as well as making millions on him. Then Scott Wright comes and we get 400,000 for him. The deal would have worked out fantastically, and I'm sure Dave will be absolutely loving it. All those Cormac coins.
Yeah, exactly. Or Don's cash, as was started today. But even for, I don't know what sell-on fee we've got around Bruce Anderson as well, but the fact that Livingston have accepted a 6-figure bid, and for him, obviously it's just down to the player to agree any personal terms if that wants to go ahead. But again, it's a decent little earner for us, because let's be honest, the half of the deal that we got never worked out at all.
Exactly, it would be some compensation, and it probably wouldn't be a high amount, but I'm sure any amount if it comes in and can contribute to the next player coming in, then I'm happy, delighted, in fact.
Yeah, and as Robbie Hanratty mentioned, the fact that we need a backup goalkeeper. Again, obviously, I'm still dubious on that one, given the kind of position surrounding Joe Lewis hasn't been declared. And we've obviously got Tom Ritchie still on the books as well. A few people maybe don't want to go with that inexperienced young keeper in Tom, but also saying 2 centre-backs, left-back, centre-attacking midfielder and winger as a minimum. You're not asking for much, Robbie, are you? But we do also need to still sign a couple more homegrown players to meet that UEFA quota for going into Europe. Not necessarily Scottish players, but players that have trained in Scotland for a minimum of 3 years. So I'm just wondering, out of that Robbie suggested, where do we look towards players that have been in Scotland for a while? And to be honest, the one that does scream out would be a cheap backup goalkeeper.
It absolutely would. I would imagine that would be one of them, because we've been linked with Ross Doohan quite heavily. I think he was on the books at Celtic for a while. And obviously there's the Connor Hazard malarkey as well. Although I know he is Northern Irish, but I think he would have had those 3 years at Celtic between 15 and 21 to make him fit that quota. And also would be a decent backup to Kellaroos, and he's fucking huge too. So I just quite like a massive goalkeeper, big presence. Another player that I would maybe quite be happy with, left-sided centre-back, as suggested by Taylor McBain, that he's surprised we haven't been linked to, Stuart Finlay. It was mentioned on last week's episode when we asked for your suggestions of players to who we'd like to see that we've not been linked with. Stuart Finlay would be another one I would be delighted with. To be honest, a good left-side centre-back, played very well under Steve Clarke in particular at Kilmarnock, knows what it's about, doesn't mess about. I'd be quite happy with him if there's other centre-back coming in addition to as well.
Yeah, and I guess in terms of recruitment and identifying these players, I'm sure Darren Mowbray has done some of the work already. But as Ewan Grant says, with regards to further recruitment, hopefully we can replace Darren Mowbray with an improvement if possible, and hopefully be done in this window. Now, I did see a tweet from Alan Burrows this week saying that the club were hopeful to be in a position to announce the replacement of Darren Mowbray shortly. Not sure how shortly is. But Darren Mowbray has now left the club officially to start his role at Southampton. So whether the fact that Darren Mowbray has left and we're waiting for the new guy to come in is having any sort of effect, I would hope not. But it could be a potential reason for some of the delay. So we'll just again need to keep our eyes on social media and keep that refresh button going to wait for any news to come in on that front, but also the new signing front as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd like to think, as you say, that most of the work in terms of identifying players would have been done. In fact, all of it would have been, I'm sure there would have been some sort of contingency plan. And you'd like to think in place, certainly now that Burrows is here. You'd like to think, I believe he would be a prepared man for these sort of things. I suppose he only officially left at the end of June, didn't he? So there will be time taken. And I suppose in terms of heads of recruitment or chief scouts or whatever, they're usually pretty busy at this time of year too as well. So it's probably a difficult position to recruit in at the moment. But I'm sure a database or something will have been left. Hopefully just his whole laptop will have been left before he went down to Southampton.
Yeah, hopefully. And I suppose the difficulty just now in terms of our recruitment is that we're looking to not only add depth to our squad, but we're looking to add strength to that depth as well. And I guess that's going to be the fine balance that we've got to get, because we speak about Anthony Stewart as potential third, fourth choice if he stays. Dante Polvara, again, some people have got mixed opinions on what he can add to the squad this season, if at all. Same also has to be said for Vicente as well. I know some people have the jury out on them just to rile you up even more, but we do need to be adding quality to this team. As Kaiser says, we really need to go up a gear this season, and we can't really afford to do a Hearts in the sense that I know they got hit with a lot of injuries last season, but they went through a spell where they didn't have the quality to kind of improve and dropped a lot of points. We saw at the back end of last season, we didn't have the quality when we were on our legs. We can't afford to go into a season where we're going to add more games on top of that without decent strength and depth.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose that sort of plays into the Dylan Levitt topic. He's obviously now signed for Hibs, 300 to 1,000, which I think is actually a good fee for Hibs to pay to get a player of his quality. But there's some talk about, maybe we should have been in for him. I suppose that sort of plays into the problem where we've got Leighton Clarkson. We won't be able to, our players of that quality, we won't be able to guarantee these guys that they're going to start every single game. Of course, we'll have more games, and we'll have to rotate at times as well. But it's difficult to find the balance between finding players who are of quality to step in when, for example, the likes of Leighton Clarkson or Yilbo Ramadani or Graham Shinney get suspended. But if they're of quality to step in and there's not that much of a drop-off, then surely there's somewhere else they could be going to play every single week, to play 30-plus games, to start 30-plus games. So it's difficult. And You mentioned Hearts there as well, and sort of the struggles they have. I don't think they recruited particularly well last summer. I mean, they ended up adding Robert Snodgrass even after the registration window for Europe had finished. In some parts, I'm thinking, as much as I'm itching for signings to come, I'm happy to wait in terms of, hopefully they're identifying the right quality of players in that, the drop-off won't be too big. But at the same time, I am starting to worry in case we do end up in that situation that Hearts were in, where we don't get enough bodies in at all, or enough bodies of quality. So it's a struggle. I have faith that they're doing it. They're doing it all properly, and they're getting everybody in, and that is going to be of the right quality. But I am a little bit worried, but also slightly taking confidence in the fact we've seemed to have got our shit together in terms of the quality we've brought in so far.
I like how you say that, but you tweet differently because you're getting fed up with the fact that we've not made signing in a week.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do want signings. That doesn't change. But I'm trying to rein it in a little bit and know that they're getting the players of the right quality. And for example, that Tonio Teklic guy. Apparently, there's been, without knowing anything about him, going by the reports from Richard, he is the top player out of the best outside of the top 3 clubs in Croatia, and there was a bit of haggling apparently over the fee. If we've identified them early enough, then eventually we should get there and bring in the players of the quality that we do need. So I'm trying to remain calm. I'm trying not to pant pish, but I am struggling, admittedly. I'm happy to admit that.
Yeah. Mark Leslie had put in the comments a list of players that Aberdeen Live had done a report on that we could look to sign. And one of the players he mentioned in the comment was a player that one of the guys, Chris at work, mentioned to me as well. Former Livingston centre-back Jack Fitzwater, who's recently been released by Northampton, a player who I was impressed with during his time at Livingston. Again, if that was an option that would be available to us, I wouldn't be against signing. But again, from what I've seen in the comments as well, that some people would like us to look at a little bit higher quality players than the likes of a St Mirren, Motherwell, and maybe Livingston in there with the trying not to be too disrespectful to those teams.
I know, but then you've got to look at, as I mentioned, the point where how do you sell it to these players when we've got Rhys Williams, we've got Angus MacDonald who's done very well. There's no guarantee they're going to play every single week, but they need to be of the quality that, if they do step in, are good enough. It's difficult, and Jack Fitzwater is probably one I would be happy with. If he not to be a starting centre back, however, I'll say that much. But then there's the problem of how do you sell it to them.
Yeah, that's true. And just thinking of that potential centre-back pairing of Rhys and Angus MacDonald, we're going to have a huge centre-back pairing for once, because something that we had before was not a lot of height in the team. And we're actually going to be quite an aerial threat again next season based on those two.
Potentially, absolutely, which I'm delighted about. I mean, the fact Rhys Williams is 6'5". When we signed him, I remember seeing him play a bit for Liverpool. Couldn't remember too much about him. Don't watch Blackpool every week, funnily enough. But I just thought, 6'5". Look, I'm delighted. If nothing else, he shouldn't be getting absolutely bullied, because no one else on the pitch will be taller than him for the most part. And as you say, from set pieces, he mentioned in his wee interview, him and Leighton linking up and often arriving at the back post is Rhys Williams. If that's something we can make more of this season, we're gonna need a lot of help. A lot of times with these European games, we might not be at our best with the workload that we've got and the leggy players. So we're going to have to rely on things like set piece at times, and that gives us a little an added dimension, I suppose.
Yeah, it gives us that little bit of extra threat from set pieces that without Matt Pollock, who is of course the target for Leighton Clarkson, we've got a new player and a player that's kind of already on the same wavelength as Leighton Clarkson. But another player that we've kind of got to look forward to getting to know is, of course, Soclair, the striker that we signed. And a lot of you have been tuning into the video that we did on getting to know him recently. Has had a lot of views over the last week or so, and a player I guess that we could see next Wednesday at Turriff as well. And I guess, Calum, listening to that video that Rhys did about that he's very loud on the pitch, and certainly maybe more so in the pre-season games we're likely to hear him rather than some of the league fixtures. But seeing the likes of recent action for the first time, seeing Esther in action for the first time on Wednesday or Saturday, is what these kind of preseason games are about, and getting excited about those new signings, or thinking, oh, what the hell have we signed them for if if they don't perform against Highland League opposition?
Absolutely. I mean, I remember. Well, I went to the game last season against Stirling Albion, where Duke came on for his debut, and he didn't look sharp, shall we say? But every time he got the ball, there was like, holy fuck, what is he gonna do? And that got me excited, even though we were playing Stirling Albion. It still got me geared up. So I'm looking forward to it. Salt Clear, I sort of read an article with an interview with his former manager, where they mentioned that the fee in that article was around 300,000, which I think is actually a pretty good bit of business. And he says he expects him to do pretty well. So I'm happy.
Yeah, and again, going by what Richard said on the podcast, is maybe, again, similar to probably what Joe said around Duke, and look how that changed. A player that's probably happy enough or suitable enough being an impact player off the bench, not someone that's coming to the club straight away, probably expecting to start these games. And I think that's, again, probably the balance that we're going to have in terms of signing players, especially in that midfield area, which I think we've got a strong midfield core, is trying to lure players to the club and saying, well, actually, you're probably not going to be first choice. How do you fancy just playing half an hour every other day? But again, with that Thursday, Sunday turnaround, it could be, well, actually, you're going to be getting more action on a Sunday than you are on that European stage.
Yeah, it is. It is very, very difficult. But certainly in terms of our strikers, I think we're in a good spot right now with Miovski, and then Sockler probably going to stand in from him. From what I've seen and heard and read, he sounds pretty similar, so that's good, like for like. Hopefully there won't be too much of a drop off there, and we won't have to change playing style or anything like that. And then you've got Duke and right now Babbage too. So at least in that position, I'm happy. And if we could do more of the same sort of throughout the rest of the team, where it's similar sort of players, similar quality, but the drop off won't be massive, then I will be delighted. But yeah, a very difficult job to do.
I guess over the next 10 days as well, it'll be interesting to see who we play up front as well, because of course Duke was just Miovski was just back running for the first time, of course, after that injury against St Mirren. So I guess interesting to see how much match minutes he gets under his belt over the course of the next 10 days at Turriff and Fraserburgh, respectively. Also similar to Duke, given the fact that he won't have had much preseason training under his belt, especially for the game on Wednesday against Turriff. So maybe Esther and Alfie Babbage will have opportunities to lay claim to make an impression anyway to Barry Robson ahead of the league campaign getting underway at Livingston.
Absolutely. I mean, you fully expect Esther Saltcliffe to start against Turriff, given the situations of the other two that you've just mentioned. And as well as Babbage, the little Marshall boy.
Of course, the Vinny Bizawan redemption arc starts next Wednesday. I'm sure that's what you're hoping. A couple of you in the comments, Darren Cable saying he heard we were linked with James Forrest. Hope not. What's our thoughts? And then again, David Turnbull's name getting mentioned quite a lot. A few of you getting unhappy with the suggestion of another loanee coming in from Celtic. Not surprised at that. What would be your thoughts on James Forrest? I'm sure Hearts are interested in signing him, but David Turnbull, again, a name that kind of doesn't really go away. It was talked about on last week's show with people mentioning him when you said a player we've not really been linked with in terms of the press that you would be happy for us to sign. And I think sign is the key word there, not on loan, but sign those players.
Tough one with Turnbull. Very injury prone, but we all know what he's capable of. And he is. See, he's the type of player that if we were to sign him on loan from Celtic, I'd be a bit happier about than sort of Liam Scales. No disrespect to Liam Scales. Because he is of a quality that we probably wouldn't be able to sign. Certainly not from Celtic, anyway. And the fee would be massive. James Forrest, again, if it wasn't on loan, yeah, as you say, I'd probably be happy, reluctantly. No doubt that he is a good player on his day. If we are going to play with wingers, Are we going to recruit better than him? Probably not. However, if he has been linked with Hearts, I wouldn't be surprised if he went there. Connection with his brother, it's in the Central Belt, only 45 minutes away. I wouldn't think we would be top of that. But then again, guaranteed you'll be in football, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other question coming in from Johnny Bain, and I guess it kind of goes down to the formation that Barry's going to play this season, whether or not he's going to adapt that from European to domestic football. Johnny asks, if we are to play wing backs this season, where do we see the likes of Shaden Morris, Ryan Duncan, and Vinny fitting into the team? I'll put that one to you first.
I don't see them fitting into the team if we are playing wing backs. Maybe Vinny, perhaps, if we're going to go with a more advanced midfielder, sort of a 10. I'm not sure. But I have a feeling that just going, I don't know what it's based off. I just have a feeling that we are not going to be playing with the three centre backs and the wing backs week in, week out anymore. Byron Robson was doing that a lot last season, I feel, based off that was the tools he had, and that we were terrible defensively, and that was how to solidify it. But now with his own players, and probably more of an onus on us to create more and things like that. Certainly in league games, in your bog standard league games, I wouldn't expect us to go with a 5. Celtic, Rangers, yeah, probably. Tough European games, yeah, probably. And maybe even sort of Hibs, Hearts away as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if we sort of interchange between the two a little bit more this season.
Yeah, and what I wondered from Johnny was who he was playing at wing back, and he said he was going to play Devlin and Hayes at wing backs. He sees Jack McKenzie more as a proper left back. And I do think, though, playing the wing backs, Johnny finishes his point by saying, I think we all agree a new left back, left wing backs needed. And I think if we are to go down the route of playing full backs in Johnny Hayes and Nicky Devlin, as Johnny alludes to, probably does for me further strengthen the fact that we do need a more left-sided defender in, aka Liam Scales. I don't know how I feel about Johnny Hayes playing left wing back for another whole season, but certainly from the social media content that the club's been putting out, I mean, I was heavily distracted by Angus MacDonald in the video, but it certainly looks like Johnny Hayes was the fittest player and won the bleep test over in Portugal.
No surprise there, really. And won the bleach test for his hair.
Yes, very good. So it's just whether or not he can avoid his concussions. But yeah, I think it's quite obvious we do need another left-sided defender, and whether that's Liam Scales or somebody else. Do you think, David Stewart asks, will they allow Babbage a bit more playing time this season, certainly in the likes of the League Cup?
Yes, I think so. And he's certainly got the quality. I think with our added games, giving him sort of, well, maybe even starts in the League Cup, I don't know, but half an hour, 15, 20 minutes in games where, even games where we're comfortable, will help him kick on a lot. I mean, he's still young. Playing him every week would be stupid, and it's not going to happen given the 3 strikers we have, in my opinion. But I would like to see him given a bit more of a chance. We all know he's capable of ripping it up in the under-18s league, but it'll be interesting to see how he does sort of being broken in this season.
Yeah. I guess another point that John Keeloch makes is the fact that we've got Kieran Ngwenya. I, of course, spent last season on loan at Wraith, so he could either break through the season or not, as he says. Interesting to see what the future holds for Kieran. I can't help but feel probably going to be another loan deal before he leaves, but that's just the opinion that I have. There hasn't really been much else for us to talk about in terms of signings and potential incomings to the club, but you mentioned Cormac Coins. Don's Cash has officially gone live, giving the season ticket holders and Aberdeen A members opportunity to get cash back on purchases, albeit if you're a season ticket holder, you only get your 10% cash back on retail purchases and stadium tours, to really see the benefit of any money back, you have to be an ABERDEEN member. So maybe a sly ploy to increase DNA memberships there. But if you're an under 12 through to standard DNA holder, you get cash back on retail, match tickets, hospitality purchases, as well as stadium tours and retail. And anywhere from the platinum up to premium and international, that's when you get cash back on Red TV, as well as the other DNA members get. Of course, other big news from this week is the fact that Red TV has actually gone up in price for this season. The fact that it is now an extra £1 a month for normal subscribers. I noticed it's gone up to £8.99 a month for the direct debit. Not the end of the world, but I did see quite a few, and I don't know how many of our international viewers that we've got joining us tonight on the live, but there has been a few complaints about the price increase for those that subscribe to Red TV International. I think it's gone up quite a bit in height, but of course Red TV looking to improve its quality, finally getting to 1080 HD after many years of not being at a suitable quality. So hopefully that price increase for those of you that do invest in Red TV International is deemed worthwhile. And of course, I know the club are doing their best to churn out a lot of content on Red TV. So certainly for me, in terms of that £1 increase a month, £12 a year, not the end of the world given the content and obviously the fact that it allows us access to the pre and post match interviews that we can then utilize for doing these shows as well.
That is true. You mentioned the Don's cash there, Glenn. I'm hoping you can educate a dummy like me. Is this in place of season ticket discounts? I am getting the impression that it is. If you used to get 10% off, because in the sort of fine print down the bottom, it seemed to be like season ticket members and whatever have until this date to get their discounts, basically. And I have a feeling it is now in place of that, where you get money back instead of a discount off the original price. So,
It could be. It says it replaces ticket cash and discounts on retail purchases. So, yes, I believe that's right. But then I'm hoping, so you just get his money back to utilize at a later stage rather than getting your 10% discount in retail as you do now.
Yeah, so interesting. I suppose that would then encourage you to then buy something else, because if you, instead of getting the 10% off and keeping it for yourself, you get the 10% back in ready-made. Oh, I get £5 off something now. Oh, I'll buy this thing for 15 quid.
True. Yeah, I suppose like Christmas, Father's Day, all those other commercial events.
Yeah, Rory, if you're listening, Father's Day.
Yeah, no, I utilize it when the kids' kits eventually come out, because they're always about 3 months after adult kits. So yeah, no, that'll get utilized eventually. But that's kind of really been all the other news, I suppose. Well, we also got a new coach in replace of Liam Fox, Peter Leven, joining. Don't know much about him. Be interesting to see what impact he has. Hopefully, hangs around longer than Liam Fox did.
Sounds good. Going by the credentials that they talked up massively, I would imagine. But it sounds good. I hope he's a bit mental, so we've just got another nutter on the touchline. That's all I'm hoping for, really.
Well, we've certainly got coaches that are vocal on the touchline in Barry and Steve, so it'll be interesting to see what Peter brings to this certainly the coaching staff anyway, and I guess we'll see how vocal he really is next week at Turriff.
You said you hope he sticks around longer. I hope he's not leaving anytime soon.
Yeah, very good. You saw that from Jay and shamelessly stole that without.
I did. I'm sorry.
But yeah, no, it's been a quiet week in terms of the signing front. Not much for us to get our teeth into. So hopefully next week when we do a show, we'll maybe leave it until Thursday, unless there's any major signings, where we can round up our thoughts from the first preseason game against Turriff, and me and Calum can give our thoughts on what we thought of the players that played, and if we feel they're any good, because you know how fickle fans like to be after the first preseason game. But yeah, thank you very much to all of you that joined us tonight on the YouTube channel, and thank you to all of you that have subscribed to the YouTube channel over the last week. And that's us smashed 1,600 subscribers as well. Usual pre-rush before the 442 folk jump on the bandwagon after they read my preview for Aberdeen for the season ahead. So hopefully we can get 2,000 by the end of the season, and certainly with European football for us to dissect between now and Christmas, we could maybe even get it before the end of the year, Calum.
I'm saying end of the year. So, as Glen mentioned, if you've not done it already, hit that blooming subscribe button. Even if you're listening in later, just go and subscribe. You don't need to watch us, just keep listening. But subscribe. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Or, like some of you do, recommend your show to your friends, because you might have Aberdeen friends out there that haven't listened to us. And like someone I know only started listening 2 months ago and now listens every week. So you never know. There might be someone out there in your life that needs a bit of red tinted glasses in their life.
Exactly. Get a grip of yourselves.
Exactly. Right. Thank you very much to all of you watching tonight live with us on the YouTube channel. Thank you very much for all of you listening on catch up on audio, or watching as well once this video has been fully published over on YouTube. As I said, if you do subscribe, make sure you get the notifications on for that video next week. We said likely to be alive on Thursday, reacting to the game against Turriff and all other news, hopefully some more signings. But if there has been a big signing, we'll maybe jump on and do a quick video reacting to that before then. But all the best, everybody, and see you next week.